yesterday, I blocked this in. I had a pretty good feeling about it. I still do. I think that some of the work I was able to get done yesterday was um, actually some of the most clear cut in terms of transforming a preconceived vision into a kind of realized first stage of a portrait that I've had or that I've made apparent in a long time. So I'm quite pleased. That being said, there's so many other things about life that I don't want to say interrupt because maybe that's too strong a word, but happen in between the moments when you're working. And I know that for a lot of the people that are watching this, you have an entirely other life going on, whether it be through family or through a different profession. And so when you think about your drawing, there are these gaps in a way. You're always coming back to it, and I think that for me, there is something similar. Probably when I was in my 20s and I was attending school, I think that there was a little bit less of that in the sense that my only responsibility was to wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning and get myself to the studio so that I could be ready for the model room or whatever portrait I had in the morning. Nowadays, of course, this is very different, that I have innumerable responsibilities outside of just making this into a portrait. Everybody, I think, addresses this reality in a different way. For some people, it's about the studio being like a kind of a sacred place where you are, you set up your music and you have your routine, and eventually you're able to kind of conjure up this spirit of focus, this mentality of focus. And for some people, it's a matter of taking the small moments that they have and kind of getting the most out of them that they can. Um, Whatever the case, it's of course important just to find your own speed, um, especially for people like studying remotely. Um, there is not baked into your studies a motivation that is a part of really what you have to experience. When you come to a proper academy, is that there's a 9 to sometimes 7 p.m., 8 p.m. schedule that you follow to make sure that you get in the necessary hours of work. You know, I'm someone that I think for students, in a way, this is one of the most important things, is the idea that you have necessarily a motivation that puts you into a working mode for a certain amount of hours per week, whether that is many hours or only a few. The fact that it's a routine, I think, is very important. Um, there's an author that I really love called Ray Bradbury, and as I often do, I will paraphrase a quote from him that I always kind of reflect on when I think about my working process. Um, he said that he only works when he's inspired. However, luckily, he is inspired every day from 9 a.m. till 3 p.m., which is his maybe slightly cheeky way of saying that his inspiration is really related to a routine. And in a work that is so laborious, like writing novels or making representational art, it can't be stated enough how much that routine is I want to say helpful, but I think even more so, a necessary feature of your experience as an artist. So, like anything else that you do in this kind of paradigm, right, of realism, um, each thing you can consider almost to be like a kind of a brush that you're painting with, right? So the idea that the unity with which I'm kind of handling the area of the hair is a kind of effect or a kind of brush that I want to apply. The softness with which I'm handling the highlight is a kind of application that I want to make, a kind of a brush that I'm using. Even down to how I've outlined the side of the neck here, in terms of, you know, almost just showing how two values are meeting instead of what I'm doing here, which is actually bringing forward, almost in an abstract sense, the contour, the trapezius. There gets to this moment too where the drawing seems to have a little bit too much control happening, and I want to kind of break that up by introducing just a little bit of chaos, right? That chaos, though, is similarly just a brush that I want to use only in the areas where I want it in particular. So I'm thinking that I can push this contour and the shape of the hair further back in depth if I kind of break up a little bit that edge. And so I'm using some nitrum charcoal for this purpose. It's an HB charcoal, and it's relatively, I think it's relatively hard in a way, harder than, say, some of the like willow charcoal that you could be using. And I'm just kind of putting the stick of charcoal somewhat parallel to the paper and just kind of running it back and forth very lightly across some of these passages where I want to create a little bit more of that sense of randomness, right? We practice so hard to kind of control the medium that we're using. But like there can be a place where you come to that is showing you that too much control maybe is an overkill. And so adding in a little bit of that kind of brush or that element of chaos, I think actually adds to our capacity to appreciate the structure and order that's present in the drawing as well. Once again, you know, of course, it's all about balance and it's all about harmony. And I'm not creating the chaos in order to make a chaotic drawing, but just to repeat myself, to create a balance in between the really, really strong sense of organization and what we do kind of associate a little bit more with the natural world, which is a little bit of randomness, right? A little bit of an occurrence of unplanned aspects. In this case, of course, they are very well planned. But I want to kind of give that appearance or give that association also to the drawing. The sense that I get when I'm kind of working like this does kind of come from a little bit of an intuitive place. I kind of recognize that as the values are kind of darkening, right, and I'm kind of getting these features to emerge a little bit more, maybe a part of me will notice a little bit that that the drawing seems not flat from a technical standpoint in terms of three-dimensionality, but maybe flat from a bit of an atmospheric standpoint. And so I want to go in and kind of break up a little bit of that idea